Well, it is a distinct pleasure to welcome Jim Rogers, who is a devoted father, an adventure capitalist, and an author. Welcome, Jim. Thanks so much for joining us. Are you still on the exercise bike?
I am indeed. I try to spend an hour and a half or two in the gym every day. Like you, John, I've got young children, so I have to stay fit.
The purpose of this interview is to talk about your new book, which I just finished, which is a must-read for everyone, and it's entitled A Gift to My Children, A Father's Lessons for Life and Investing. And I wonder if you could just give us a snapshot of the message that you were giving to your children.
Well, first, I came to parenthood late. I thought children were a horrible waste of time, money, energy. I used to feel sorry for my friends who had children. I was never going to do anything so foolish, but I want you to know I was totally 100% wrong, completely wrong. These little children of mine are so much fun. I cannot get enough of them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, if there's anybody listening to this show who hasn't done it, I urge you to get home and get on with it, because I'm telling you, they're a lot of fun. You should take a day off. Well, don't take a day off these days. It's the difficult times, but go home for lunch. Do something. Kids are wonderful. And since I came to parenthood, I think I was about to say that I did say everybody should have children. And then I was talking about how I found myself writing down things I wanted to make sure that I taught my children. Certainly I've had plenty of failures in my life and setbacks. I've had some successes as well. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget some of these things to pass on to my children as they got older. And then once a Japanese reporter was asking about some of the things I'm teaching my children, and she wrote an article, and next thing you know, there were several articles, and the next thing you know, there was a book. And I continue, whenever I think of it, to write things down, and I'll expand the book as life goes on. That's how it all started, and I have found, as you mentioned, it's good for adults as well as for children. I think probably more adults read it and like it than children at this stage.
Well, I really recommend it to all our listeners. And I wanted to get on to the subject of government at home. And if you could just explain what prompted you to work on that initiative.
Well, I realized, actually, Sean, I wrote a book in the early 90s called Investment Biker about my trip around the world on a motorcycle. And in that, I had a chapter of some things which I suggested, and one of them was, why do we send everybody to Washington or Ottawa, when that was certainly the way to do things in 1789 when America was established. We had to send everybody to Washington. There were no phones, there was no internet, there was no nothing, no telegraph. Travel was difficult. So that's the way you set up a government. But nobody setting up a government in 2015 or 2020 would do it that way. We would all do video conferencing, internet. I mean, now you can do anything you want. You can have big meetings where people can write documents together, even if they're thousands of kilometers apart. So I said, listen, what we're doing now is a terrible waste. Time, energy, money. Worse than that, Washington is full of lobbyists, and nearly all laws are written by lobbyists and certainly strongly influenced by lobbyists. And the American public has very little to do with how laws come out or what's good for us. So I said, why don't we do it differently? Why don't we make the congressmen stay home, make them vote from their own districts where their own constituents can watch them vote. Now, if you go to a vote in Washington, you see lobbyists lined all up and down waiting for the congressman to come in so they make sure they remind them how they're supposed to vote and what they're supposed to say. But wouldn't it be better if each person were out in his own high school gym in Nebraska or, in his own office in Oklahoma or something, where the people could have the input instead of the lobbyists? Lobbyists would still be around, but they'd have to travel to 535 districts instead of what we do now is we bring all the congressmen to Washington for the thousands of lobbyists to pluck and influence. So I said, even in 1994, I thought I saw the possibilities, but certainly in 2014, 2024, it'll be extremely easy and better to have all government done by people who stay at home, listen to their constituents. Children go to the same schools. They buy food in the same grocery stores. They ride on the same highways or the same public transportation. America would be a lot better off. It would certainly be different, and it would be better off.
Who knows? We might have avoided TARP and QE2 and all the rest of the money printing that's going on.
I assure you, Johnny, if they voted on TARP and everybody was in his own district where people were suffering right, left, and center, it would not have had anybody would have had the nerve to say, we're going to spend a few $1 trillion bailing out some banks on Wall Street while all of us here in Kansas and Colorado and Oregon are going down the tube. So it would not have happened at all.
Well, for all this plain speaking, you deserve a commercial, and that is, folks, you've got to buy Jim Rogers' book, A Gift to My Children, A Father's Lessons for Life and Investing, and visit govathome.com. Is that correct, Jim?
govathome.com. That's exactly right. It's just getting started, John. I'm delighted and flattered that you have been attentive, and it's just getting started. Let's hope it works.
For fathers out there, you're an inspiration in a number of ways. And on the exercise bike, I've never done an interview with somebody on an exercise bike, so this is a first. And you are sort of, to me, Harry Truman reincarnate in a financial sense, so that's a compliment. I love your plain speaking. I thank you so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to talking again soon.
Well, John, this has been great fun, so let's do it again sometime.
Thank you.